Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Okay, Disney has made their deal with their big cable customer, Charter Communications Spectrum, and they agreed to do some things that they never thought they were going to do before. It is a big loss for Disney because this is not what Disney's business plan was. But it could potentially be very good for them if they move very quickly to accept what the new realities are and try to capitalize on it. This deal turns Disney Plus into just another regular cable channel. The same content is going to be available with ads that's available through a streaming subscription, but it's going to directly compete with everything else that's on cable through their customer Charter Communications, but also pretty much through probably all the other cable distributors as well, because they're all going to want this deal. It's a much better deal for cable companies. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. There are a number of articles on this that came out today talking about more detail, exactly what happened, how the negotiations seemed to come together. The bottom line on those articles is Disney just capitulated and accepted what Charter Communications wanted Disney to do. This is probably because John Malone owns 26% of Charter Communications. John Malone is a legend in the cable industry. He probably set them up for this, and Disney was not willing to walk away from this deal, and Charter was, and it became obvious pretty quickly. The deal has some complexities in it. This is not the kind of thing that you would whip up over a weekend or over 11 days. This is something that John Malone's people sat down and figured out using their experience, knowing that they do similar things in other countries with John Malone's other cable companies. There's really no reason why they couldn't do this in the US with Disney, except Disney wanting to go along with it and change Disney's entire business model for their streaming service and change their entire business model for their linear TV service. If that sounds like kind of a big deal, it really is a big deal. This is very transformational. Not everyone agrees that this is a transformative deal for how TV is distributed. I'll explain to you why I think it is. Now, this deal is going to be offered to all cable providers. Right now, it's just one cable provider, but all these big cable contracts with all their content providers really call for a most favored nation status, which means if you give Charter Communications a special deal, you've got to give the same special deal to Comcast and the other cable companies. They're going to want to take Disney up on this. So Disney really needs to move fast and get reorganized. Now, consumers will get access to ad-supported Disney Plus in their main basic cable packages, and they'll get access to ESPN Plus, both of them for no money. ESPN Plus will probably be in expanded cable packages. Disney Plus is going into their basic package, so they're going to get extra content they never had before. It really is a great value for customers. Instead of 8 extra channels, because Disney is canceling 8 channels as part of this deal. They're canceling these channels so far only for this customer, but let's be realistic. There are going to be changes at Disney if one of the customers doesn't want these channels, and instead they're getting Disney Plus. The other companies are going to want the same things. For the cable companies, they finally got to break Disney's cable bundle. Disney was always able to push all their cable channels on their cable customers at pretty much whatever price Disney thought was fair and they could get away with because of the importance of ESPN. All channels had to be bought or no channel could be bought. This was a life or death matter for the cable companies when they really needed to have ESPN. That time has now come and gone, and Disney's bundle has been broken. So those 8 channels that this company said, hey, we're not picking up those 8 channels, you can forget it, and we want Disney Plus for free. That's now the new reality. Interestingly, movies used to be distributed this way, and it was stopped. It was called block booking, a system of selling multiple films to a theater as a unit. Block booking was the prevailing practice in the Hollywood studio system from the turn of the 1930s until it was outlawed by the Supreme Court, United States versus Paramount Pictures in 1948. Under block booking, independent theater owners were forced to take large numbers of studios' pictures, almost like cable channels that nobody watches, without knowing much about the movies. The studios could then parcel out B movies along with A-class features and star vehicles, which made both production and distribution operations more economical for the studio. A lot of times, theaters got stuck with content that they didn't want, and there was really nothing they could do about it. You either got all their films or you got none of their films. The breaking up of Disney's cable bundle, where Disney will say, okay, these are the channels you're buying, and this is how much you're paying, cable distributor, and you can't say or do anything about it. That time is gone forever. So that is incredibly transformative for the cable industry, Disney's linear TV business, and the future of how content is distributed. Cable companies, because of this, will probably lose less than the 5% of their customers they've been losing every year, because no doubt some of them are going to find value in these Disney Plus and ESPN Plus products. Maybe they will still keep losing them. We'll have to see what happens. But it's at least better than 8 channels that probably nobody was watching. Cable companies will also be able to make extra profit by reselling Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and even Hulu, believe it or not. And not only that, they'll be able to sell them as part of a bundle, the way that Disney markets their bundles to their broadband-only customers, because there are plenty of cable customers who have cut their video, they've cut the cable channels, but have maintained their broadband connections. Now they can make money for themselves as a cable company trying to resell that service. That's the wholesale rate that Disney has been talking about, that they're going to get paid from the cable companies reselling their service. It will probably be somewhere from 30 to 40% of whatever they sell it for, less than half. But we don't have the numbers, so we don't know exactly. That'll also be profitable for Disney, and they are selling the ad-supported versions of these services, so Disney will also get ad revenue out of that. Cable companies will not be paying $1 more than they would have paid that Disney asked for to get a hold of Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. While the announcement of the deal claims that Charter is going to be paying a wholesale price to Disney for Disney Plus, estimates from analysts say wholesale means $400 to $500 million a year just from Charter to Disney for Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, which is approximately equal to the $300 million less Disney is supposed to get from canceling those 8 channels. What happens in negotiations is people sit down and they say, okay, well, what do you really need? And then people basically tell you, and then you look at it and say, okay, well, here's what I really need. What Disney really needed was the revenue. They could not afford to not get the revenue that they had planned for. However, their customer Charter did not want to pay that kind of money because they weren't getting the value. In a lot of cases, Disney has been taking some of that cable content, letting it go out first on cable, and then putting it on their streaming services, basically allowing the cable companies to pay for their costs of production, and then taking the benefit of those shows and putting it on their streaming service. That's great for Disney, but it's really not fair to the cable customers, some of which wind up basically getting ripped off by paying for the content twice. The closeness of that $300 million compared to the $400 to $500 million sounds exactly like in a negotiation, Disney said, okay, look, we'll give you Disney Plus for free, but you've got to call it a wholesale rate. And surprise, surprise, they get rid of just enough channels to basically make up that rate. That's how Disney is making it appear that they're at least getting some money for Disney Plus. However, when the cable companies are paying less money overall for the cable channels and some more money for Disney Plus, but the total number is still the same, I think you can see what's going on. Overall for Disney, this completely transforms their streaming business and their linear channels. Not a little bit, but completely. They do not have control of what cable channels will distribute anymore. They can't just produce whatever content they want and assume that cable companies will buy it just because they have ESPN. Disney has now lost 20% of the distribution from the 8 channels that they had that were canceled. As Disney rolls this deal out with other cable companies, which they really should be doing as I'm making this video, like absolutely immediately, because they run a lot of risk if they don't act immediately with their other cable customers. And here's what that risk is. So far, they've lost 20% of the distribution and approximately $300 million of revenue from those 8 channels. As they talk to other cable companies, if they say, oh, you know what, of those 8 channels, I would still keep 2 of them, but here's 4 other channels I don't want. If they start getting chipped away at by these different cable companies who, like Charter, insist on having Disney Plus basically for free, but they choose which channels they do or don't want to have on their system, it's going to mean Disney is going to start to make the production and distribution of more than 8 of their channels not viable. It could really just be a complete collapse. So they really do need to move fast for this. There's no question their streaming business, their direct-to-consumer business, is going to lose subscribers. Why? Well, 14 million of their customers, or some very high number of multiple millions, are going to start to get Disney Plus with ads for free now. Some of them are already subscribed for Disney Plus with ads. Some of them are probably subscribed without ads. When they're getting it for free on their cable service, they're not also going to maintain a subscription directly with Disney. So they're going to have to be dealing with that, and it's going to come at them very suddenly as soon as the services started to get offered. Their direct-to-consumer business is also going to have a hard time finding subscribers when a lot of the subscribers they're trying to market to already have Disney Plus for free from their cable company. So they will get new subscribers. They'll get them as part of their overall cable deal to distribute Disney Plus. But as far as signing up a lot of new direct-to-consumer customers in the US, that's very unlikely. Disney has not been mixing their linear business and their streaming business. They're part of different operations. This deal, to force Disney to do this, is really to force them to change their entire business plans. They were going to sell, for example, ownership of their linear channels to outside investors, or maybe sell them altogether. How are they going to do that now when the linear business is now getting less revenue and they're forced to mix it with their streaming services? The reality is they're producing content. It's all really under the same company, and they need to figure out how to use these relationships with cable distributors and direct to consumer in the best possible way. But their linear businesses are going to lose at least probably $1.5 billion a year in revenue. That's after they made this deal with Charter and they reworked their other deals. They will make up for that revenue by offering them Disney Plus, and then they'll probably make some additional revenue because of advertising receipts, and they may even get more revenue from wholesale relationships because cable companies will try to resell Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and Hulu and bundles of that stuff to their own broadband-only customers. And that's very good, and that will generate them some extra cash, but it's all going to be coming out of their linear business revenue. Maybe it's more than the linear business, maybe not. But even if it does grow the streaming business, it weakens all their cable channels. According to Google, Disney Plus currently has, as of September 2023, 42 million US subscribers. This cable deal overall, if they move quickly and they sign these deals up with the other cable providers, they could have as many as another 30, 40, even 50 million or more subscribers to Disney Plus that are advertising supported. They probably will not get more revenue. The revenue they get will be equal to the revenue they lose from their linear channels, which means they're going to really have to shut down the canceled channels as quickly as possible. Perhaps move some of those shows and those employees around, but they can't continue to run those 8 channels if those are the ones that are going to get dropped. They will get additional revenue from advertising if they're in another 40 million, 50 million households. That could be great money for them. This is not a terrible deal for Disney, but it is a new reality. They no longer are focused on selling Disney Plus as a streaming product now that they have this massive wholesale relationship that they're going to have to run throughout the US. They could also be doing this in multiple countries. If Disney handles this situation correctly, it could be great for Disney. Their streaming service could see a lot more distribution between the cable companies and the general extra exposure of the Disney Plus brand. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.